Thanks for joining us. My name is Rebecca Martin, and I'm one of the business development managers here at Real Story Group. So today we're going to focus our conversation on the important considerations that go into selecting enterprise content management technology. We're going to look at the overall ECM and cloud file sharing marketplace and provide you with a framework to evaluate the marketplace based on your unique needs. We're also going to provide some specific steps that need to be taken to select the best fitting document management or cloud-based file sharing tools for your enterprise. So moving to the next slide, just a quick introduction for those of you who are joining us that aren't as familiar with us. There are really three different ways that we work with our customers. The first way, we help them get to the right shortlist for their technology selection. The second way outlined here, we can help you benchmark your effectiveness with the technology that you already have. And then finally, we do consulting. But I want to elaborate on number one, the first thing that's outlined there for a second. It's important to note that the core of everything we do is based on our research. We exist as a company to help the buyers of technology. And we do that by providing in-depth research, analyzing strengths, but maybe importantly for you, the buyers of technology, the weaknesses of some of the different vendors, products that we cover. But how we do this is important. So for ECM specifically, we've identified 7 business use case scenarios, which of course going to cover in more detail in a minute. But in our most recent report, we rate each of the 16 products that we evaluate against these scenarios. And as I'm sure you can imagine, different ECM tools target different use cases, and we want to ensure that you're focusing in on those that are the best fit for you. On the next page here, you see a high-level overview of the 7 different marketplaces that we cover. But Apoorv, if you don't mind just moving to the next page, I like this view because you can see the marketplaces that we cover. They're represented by the subway lines there, if you will. But you can also see which products and platforms that we evaluate in each of the marketplaces. And the products are represented, I guess, by the stops, on the subway line. So this is what we call our vendor map. People get a ton of value out of it. But looking at the map, it can be a bit overwhelming when you look at all of the choices that you have available to you as technology buyers. But that's what we're here for. For less than 1 to 2% of your total project expense, we can reduce your risks when going through a vendor selection process in a few different ways. So the first way I would highlight is just understanding vendor pricing and mitigating potential cost surprises and really keep you, avoid overbuying solutions. We can also help customers reduce the likelihood of selecting the wrong product. We can make sure that you're focusing in on the right shortlist, and we also educate our subscribers about all the different pitfalls to avoid when going through a selection process. But moving to this last slide, I can't really kick off this webinar and not mention something that's critically important to the way we do business. What this slide highlights is something that's unique in the analyst world, and we have yet to find another analyst firm that adheres to the strict independence, but we don't work for buyers. We don't work for vendors in any capacity, which allows us to be the toughest critics out there. So we're absolutely unbiased when evaluating where the products are potentially a good fit, but also where their products and platforms are not such a good fit. So that's important to note as well.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca, for that overview. Hello, everyone. This is what we'll broadly cover. We start with an understanding of the broader marketplace and how we categorize vendors. We then look at ways of slicing and dicing the marketplace using 3 categories of evaluation parameters. These are scenarios, business services, and technology services. The idea is to be able to arrive at a shortlist based on these 3 types of parameters. Okay, so let's look at the categories first. We now define 3 categories in the ECM marketplace. The first category is major ECM platform. These are traditional ECM vendors who provide a whole range of services around document and enterprise content management. So services like records management, archival, business process management, and so on and so forth. The second category is document management products. These are also traditional vendors, but they focus on only a subset of ECM activities. Most of them focus on document management as an application. Now, some of them do provide other features such as some bit of records management, but the focus is mostly on document management. And finally, you have the sync and share vendors. We call them cloud based file sharing and sync services. These are services that excel in lightweight document management, collaboration, sharing, and sync services. Now, this chart shows how different types of products overlap. So the left circle shows the ECM slash DM product space, and the right circle shows the cloud based file sharing, sync and share vendors. Now, at first glance, these two might appear as two separate marketplaces, but you will find considerable overlap of services between these two categories of vendors. The reason for this overlap is that CFSS vendors have started to build traditional document management capabilities, such as version control, such as library services, document management, and so on. While ECM and DM vendors, on the other hand, have built or acquired cloud based file sharing, sync, and lightweight collaboration services. So they've acquired companies or they've built those capabilities. Nevertheless, these two categories of tools tend to address different types of scenarios or use cases. In particular, the vendors in the ECM slash DM circle here are more suitable for advanced and complex scenarios. Uh, Standalone CFSS vendors, on the other hand, make sense for many simpler scenarios. Now, I say simpler, but not necessarily less important. In fact, these vendors score better than full-fledged document management tools in terms of ease of use and the fact that you can get an implementation running without too much of system integration work. So, with this context in mind, let us dig a bit deeper. If you are evaluating ECM and CFSS tools, then beyond categorization, there are a few dimensions we use for evaluation. Right? The first of these dimension is called scenarios. Uh, some of you might have heard of this term before, but for those who haven't, I like to think of scenario as a high level business use case. In spite of what vendors claim, the fact remains that not all products or not all services are good at each of different types of use cases. This is usually because the product's initial incubators or customers wanted it for those specific use cases. Now, over time, the product usually broadens and matures and increases its scope, but the initial roots are still visible. For the ECM marketplace, we have identified these seven scenarios, which will help you identify the differences between these products. But to be sure, these scenarios are abstractions. They may or may not reflect any of your needs precisely. I mean, not one, just one scenario may or may not reflect your needs, but it is very likely that you will find some resonance in one or two scenarios, or in some combination of, or in some hybrid combination of these scenarios, right? But that itself is a very good starting point for the product selection exercise. So let us go through some examples of this. So I'll not describe these here, but we'll see some examples of some of these scenarios. This is a screenshot for document lifecycle management scenario. So this is from a product called Axelion, which is a cloud-based file sharing and sync product. Now this scenario basically reflects the basic purpose of these tools, and that is to manage documents as they move through their life cycle from one stage to another. As you can probably see, this scenario's complexity can vary between extremes. On the one extreme, there is basic document lifecycle management. This is for products that provide really basic content services that include plain and simple document management. Key features for this are the ability to, for example, upload content, simple workflows, task-based workflows, basic library services such as ACLs, versioning, ability to check in, check out, taxonomy, and search. Most cloud-based file sharing and sync services such as Axelion or some of the others that we cover, Simplicity, etc., are often suitable for this scenario. On the other extreme of this scenario is what is known as advanced document lifecycle management, and that includes much more advanced capabilities such as compound and virtual document com- and content management, right? So some products such as IBM FileNet or Documentum have support for these compound and virtual documents, and that's very relevant for scenarios where, for example, you might be working on multiple documents and then you want to include the document as a final deliverable, or something like that. So this is where the full service document management products fit better than the simpler products. This is an example of document centric collaboration scenario, the third scenario in our list. Now, collaboration can have many connotations, right? But in this context, we are more concerned with what is sometimes called collaborative document management. The scenario basically requires technology that can support the collaborative authoring of documents, along with the ability to support easy but secure sharing and reuse of deliverables. Right. For supporting this kind of a scenario, workspaces are a common structure in which vendors try to supply this sort of functionality. What this means is that you usually buy software or install software that allows you to configure multiple online workspaces, right? So, for example, a workspace for a particular project, and that then workspace becomes the daily on-screen working area for your team members. Your team members can then store documents there with tools provided to lock, unlock, annotate documents, track access to some of those documents, and so on and so forth. So this screenshot is from Alfresco. The fourth example here is of process and case management. Now, a key scenario that these systems get used for is for managing and automating processes. So processes for, let's say a credit card approval, or processes for insurance quote and bind, and those kind of processes. The key functionality then here is to evaluate here then is for example workflows, and and not just simple workflows but also more complex workflows such as those required for business process management, capabilities for creating tasks, routing, and case management sort of functionality. Now, I mentioned case management. So case management in itself is an important scenario, but we have often found that case management is used in conjunction with business process management, rules engine, e-forms, and so on. And so we've clubbed case management with process. We've clubbed case management in this scenario itself, and we call it a process and case management. Okay, so here's another example of a scenario. This is for information governance. This is mostly about records management, and associated aspects here to consider are such as like retention and disposition, physical records management, and archival. Now, most products have an add-on RM module here that typically integrates with the underlying document management product. So this screenshot is from FileNet. Now, this is one of the major benefits a suite provider can bring to the table, assuming, of course, that they have truly made the effort to integrate their document management and records management products. Some of them have not, but some of them certainly have made that effort. The next dimension that we use in our evaluation is functional services. Basically, what does the technology do? Now, these are the services or features that a product offers. We divide this dimension into these categories mentioned on this slide. Uh, of course, these are high level categories. In our evaluations, we go much deeper than these high level categories. So, for example, for document management, we evaluate features such as support for compound or complex documents. Similarly, for business process management and workflows, we evaluate features such as process modeling and visual design capabilities, and so on. So again, I'll not describe all of them here. So most of them are self-explanatory, but we'll look at some examples. This is an example of file sync and offline functionality. Uh, Most users these days use more than one device to work, right? All of us have multiple devices. You might use a laptop in office, a desktop at home, a tablet and a phone while on the move. It is then only natural that you would want to access your files from all of your devices. And so it is important that the tool allows you to synchronize your files across multiple devices. Now, in fact, a separate category of tools has emerged, and we discussed that in our initial slides. However, what's happening is that existing document management vendors are also building, or in some cases, acquiring these kind of capabilities. So this has become an important functionality to be evaluated while selecting these tools. So this screenshot shows that typically these kind of tools integrate with your Finder or Explorer window, and then from there you can sync your files or copy them to the server and so on and so forth. Another functionality in context of ECM is records management and archiving. Uh, Records management, retention, file plan, physical records, DoD certification, retention, and disposition management are some of the key features that you should be evaluating if this particular feature is of relevance to you. So this is a screenshot of records manager from IBM's FileNet. Uh, yeah. Document management, of course, this is the root, this is the base of all, pretty much all the features. It usually lies at the root of most major dm most major document management deployments. So in this case, beyond when you move beyond simple document management, advanced document management system typically contain features such as compound document management functionality, which allows for construction and management of highly complex document objects. Right. So they are also called virtual documents in some products. Some call them complex documents. Some call them compound documents. Essentially, the idea is same. Right. So once you've looked at scenarios, you've looked at functional services or business services, the final dimension to look at is what are known as technology services. These are typically services that are required by folks such as architects or by admin and technical people. But in case of ECM, these technology services also become very important because often ECM is a complex implementation. It gets integrated with many other applications. There are issues related to scalability, and a ton of other technical issues, right? So these kind of features become very important. Essentially, this deals with the underlying plumbing uh, capabilities or the overlying layers for these tools, such as the architecture layer and so on. So some examples here: the mobile access is an important technical aspect that you should look at. This is becoming an important feature because obviously we all know that mobile devices have uh, become increasingly powerful, and users want to access their documents while on the move, right? So tablets and in particular iPads are a game changer here, right? But increasingly we have seen that employers often allow employees to bring their mobile devices of their own choice. So the first key differentiator here is whether the vendor provides mobile application only for few devices or for a broader range of devices. Now, most tools here provide specific native applications for iOS and for Android devices. A few of them also differentiate between iPhone and iPad and provide separate apps for these two devices running iOS. I mean, iOS and Android are basically standard, so there not many of them provide apps for other devices, other kinds of devices, and that no longer makes sense also. Now, the capability of mobile devices itself vary across different tools. So, in some cases, the mobile app is really very basic, allowing you to say carry out only read-only operations. While in some other cases, you can carry out more complex tasks such as triggering workflows, editing documents, adding permissions or comments. So that's an example of mobile access. This is a screenshot for that shows admin and management capabilities. So the fact is that even though many vendors boast of simple install, in reality an ECM installation is anything but simple, right? And as a result, you often need considerable capabilities for administering and managing the installation. So for example, you will need to make sure that the entire stack is ready, which often means that you typically must possess a pre-installed operating system, database, application server, web server, directory server. And then you need capabilities to manage and configure web workspaces, security, user role, ACL reporting, and so forth, right? So those are some of the capabilities to look at when evaluating admin and management capabilities. Integration and extensibility, another important aspect. So here you not only look out for the kind of APIs that are available, but also look out for what kind of connectors are available out of the box. So if you have a large ECM implementation that needs to, let's say, integrate with a backend SAP system or Salesforce or something like that, a pre-built connector will make your life much easier as compared to writing something on your own from scratch. Okay, so that's really the dimensions that we look at, and here's the summary of that. So basically, you actually look at four aspects. We have covered three here. We haven't covered this one aspect, which is number one here, which is basically strategic factors related to vendors. But we have looked at number two, three, and four, which are basically scenarios uh, to differentiate what a product is good at, followed by business or functional services, followed by technology services. So those are the dimensions that you should look at while evaluating products. Now, of course, you can go through our research and go through all of them and read all of that, but we also provide some handy tools for you to make it much simpler. So for example, this is an example of a real quadrant shortlist generator. So here what happens is that this left table, basically two tables on the left basically are scenarios and the strategic factors, and then it allows you to give weights to each of those based on what is relevant to you, and then based on what you've entered, it actually creates a quadrant that is specifically for your needs. It's not a static quadrant, but a dynamic quadrant that changes based on what you enter in the tables left. You can play around with it if you are a subscriber, and there are several other tools that can help you generate an initial shortlist for your requirements. Okay, so that's about it. That's all that I had to share.